Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Adult Sports Kid Podcast. My name is Jason Paul, and I am your host. I hope you're doing well. I thank you for finding us. And let's get right to it, right? So it's finally happening. There's news that's starting to drip out around NBA 2K. Of course, NBA 2K22 comes out September 10th this year. Very early, as per usual, in relation to the actual start of the basketball season. So we're going to get to that news in a little bit of what we've learned about this game. And I'm going to go over what I'm playing in the next segment. Right now, I wanted to kick off this podcast with my biggest gripes about 2K in recent years. I say this as somebody who has been converted into somebody who plays my career and my player. I had some of the most fun I ever had with NBA 2K in NBA 2K19, playing with a group of people on a Pro-Am team, playing in the park for many months, even getting some good games in the rec. And that's continued. It converted me. NBA 2K18 is when I first started playing in the mode, and then 19 I went all in, 20 kind of took the year off. Last year got back in with next gen. So I've had a decent amount of time in this mode. And I want to talk a little bit about my major gripe when it comes to my player and my career. And it'll touch on the transaction aspects of it. It won't even really talk about the gameplay. My main gripe comes down to one thing. And this one thing has actually been pretty much perfected by other games. In NHL 19, or NHL 20, I should say, I thought it was done perfectly. And that one thing, of course, is matchmaking. The absence of matchmaking in NBA 2K is absurd. It's just absurd that we live in a time and place where this exists. And I don't know, I like to blame it on the idea of the city or the neighborhood and that connectedness. I do think that plays a part. And then, of course, some of it is also, hey, we want people to level up their guy, right? Like, we don't need matchmaking if we want everyone to be a 99 and to pay a little money to be an 85 to start out. But it just comes down to, it hasn't deterred me in totality to play. But when I play these other games that have matchmaking, which is pretty much every video game in existence that's online. I mean, I believe even before I stopped playing Fortnite, that started to incorporate more matchmaking. Matchmaking is very important. Matchmaking is integral to sports and the games in general. You know, you don't start off playing high school football or against high school football players if you're 7 years old. You start peewee football. That's a real life example, but that's matchmaking. There's parameters that are set and they're adhered to by organizations. Y2K has the arrogance, I'm just going to say it, the arrogance to think we're above matchmaking is purely money driven. That's it. It's because they're making money hands over fist. They see the comments. They get it. They understand, even, I'm sure, on a personal level, playing the game. It's not fun to get your butt whooped all the time. It's not fun to beat up on people all the time. But guess what? It seems like with the way things are going, and it is a pretty gigantic player pool, the odds you're matched up with somebody who's not in your skill gap to be a good game is quite large. And that sucks. Because playing a good game against somebody is the best. I can say this from experience. I have a couple friends I play with online that it seems like we always have classic games that go down to the wire when we're playing like one-on-one. I just want that in my career in my player setting. I want that in 2K. So my idea is pretty simple, is to rip off what EA's done with NHL. Is you have divisions. So if you're playing Pro-Am, you're going to level up. You're going to start at the bottom, and you're going to work your way up. So you're not playing gold teams, because that's the other infuriating part of this equation is they rank you. You have a ranking. Your bronze, your silver, your gold. At least in previous 2Ks, that's what you had a Pro-Am team that you were ranked. They told you how good you were, but it didn't matter in who you're matched up to. Or they say there's matchmaking, and there clearly isn't. So this is magnified everywhere, and the park might be the worst in terms of just pure social Darwinism there of like people running around, hopping on spots, hopping off of spots. They want to get in this game, but oh no, you're an 89 and not a 92. I can't play with you. So it's also, the lack of matchmaking also prohibits people from playing the game. And I could go on a tangent here about the neighborhood in the city and how that also does that. But I want to focus purely on the matchmaking. Because give the park to the crazy people who want to run around in circles looking for the perfect teammates. Fine. But how about the rec? How about Pro-Am? We have a little bit of matchmaking. Just a little bit. Have divisions. Maybe the first time in your rec, you got to play 30 games in the rec, have a certain teammate grade. Because there's these mechanisms in the game that exist. If I could filter by teammate grade, that would be absolutely fantastic. I don't want to play with, or I want to filter by people, how many quits do they have. We should have these controls. We know the player base is absolutely gigantic, right? So it's really just down to adding the feature in. And if you add it on top of everything you have now, I'd argue the microtransact, you'd still make money hand over fist. People still want to be good. But just judge us based off the skill. Listen, if my Pro-Am team's lost the last 5 games, maybe we shouldn't be matched up with a gold team. Maybe not. Because we didn't ask for it. Now, if there's some opt-in, like, hey, you want to play this elite league where winners get prizes, then sure. What my butt, then? I deserve it. I've opted in. But if I'm just going into the rec, in the name it's sort of implied, recreation, there should be fun there. Don't just abandon any semblance of matchmaking and just throw 5 random people together, which, kind of positionally it makes sense. It's absolutely infuriating. So my idea is quite simple. For Pro-Am, treat it like division rank ups in FIFA, in NHL, where you have your team, you start in a lower division, and you work your way up. You get a certain amount of games to get a certain amount of wins, and if you hit that, you go up. If you don't, you stay in the same division, and maybe if you don't hit a threshold, you go down. It's that simple. And you can add cool things to this. You can add, as you go division up, you get more VC, or more My Points, or more clothing. You can do it to qualify for a bigger division, everybody needs to have a certain pair of shoes I don't know. Listen, you could even monetize this in a way. You could make it so, listen, if you want to opt in to some expert, level matchmaking, or like a league where you're going to be tracked, maybe it costs 5,000 VC a player. I don't know. I think we could incentivize it for both parties if this is a money thing, but I don't even think it is. I think it's purely like, don't fix what's not broken. I'd argue it is broken. I'd argue you are pushing people away. I would say this especially when, how many times we got to go into the Pro-Am. We're going to shoot around a little bit. We're going to try to find a game. We find a game. Oh, it sucks. We got to quit out. We got to go back in. This is time and energy being spent when these other franchises are doing it better. And you could certainly, I'm sure 2K is arguing, well, look at their sales. They're not selling better than us. Sure. But if they're doing something better than you, take that idea and use it. Apply it to your game. It's important that people enjoy the totality of their experience and the frustration. See, it's very tough to convince people to hop into a game like 2K if it's so frustrating, right? And that's what it becomes to be. You want to have this idealistic time with 4 of your friends, you're playing 5-on-5 basketball, but it quickly denigrates if you're playing teams that constantly are terrible in relation to you or are constantly playing teams that are amazing in comparison to you. So that's my plea. Matchmaking, some semblance of it. In the rec, do it by overalls. In the rec, I would do it by teammate grades. Guess what? If you play well with good teammates, we'll match you with good teammates. If you play like a bum, you'll be matched with bums. It shouldn't be this difficult. It shouldn't take pleadings from me on the internet. And that's my number one gripe with 2K. I actually like, the gameplay's good. It goes in waves throughout the year and year to year, but especially throughout the year with patches. Ultimately, I really do enjoy my time with it. But my best memories are when it's working right. When you have a great game against somebody. I don't care if I have a great game and lose, but I want to have a great game. I truly do. I need that. I want that. Listen, I'm going to be honest with everybody here. This is my outlet for playing basketball, is playing virtual basketball at this point. I wish it wasn't. I wish I was still athletic enough to go run on courts. I am just not. Too old, can't jump at all. Used to not be able to jump very high. Now it's barely anything. It's non-existent now. So this is where I'm a player on this court. And don't get me started on the park is ridiculous. The social Darwinism there with trying to team up with people who are better than you, dissing people who are under a certain rating. Just keep people let the people with similar ratings play with one another. Now that I know is totally a ploy of walking around the city, seeing people with higher ratings, and purchasing VC. That's what it pushes you to do. And it's sad because I think there's a lot of potential in this game. Not that, listen, do you need to do this? No, obviously not, because you probably sucked me in already for this year's game. But it'd be an easier sell for people to get their friends involved. And it'd be a better experience once you're picking up the controller if these things existed. I want to love these games so hard. But it's very tough when one of the coolest features in it, Pro-Am, creating a team, creating a jersey, creating logos, just sucks. And people just abandon it. It's truly, truly a terrible experience. So that's my plea. I hope one day somebody stumbles upon this, listens to it, and it's one of the many. Listen, I know I'm one of the many voices in the chorus, but I have to add it. And for my conscience, I needed to add my voice to this chorus. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to what I've been playing. Madden Online franchise continues to be a blast. Is the game perfect? Absolutely not. But I'm having so fun, as I alluded to last episode. Having a universe with your friends that is living and breathing is amazing. My Ravens season, 10-4 at this point of recording. That's on a 5-game win streak. I love this team I'm playing with, and that's what I used to get so emotionally invested in my franchise teams, and this is the first time in a long time in a football game that I am. So that, and we've been blasting through games. When you have somebody else who's playing the games, it sort of forces you to be at a clip with them, to stay at parallel, because you have to advance the week. So that's been fun. Again, being able to talk to somebody about what's going on in the league, but not only that, but gameplay concerns, strategies, and then we just had 2 excellent classic head-to-head matchups, division games, Browns versus Ravens. They were the stuff of lore. No hyperbolicness there. None at all. Amazing. 2 amazing games. So I'm enjoying the heck out of that. So I'm very happy that Madden Online franchise exists, because I don't know. I think without it, I don't think I've been playing as much as I am. So that's been a great time. And then I also have to talk about what I played this weekend. And I guess this is all right to say, because it was a public beta by the end of it. But Riders Republic. I played the Riders Republic beta. It's fantastic. It's exactly what I want. I know it's not for everybody. It's not. So Riders Republic beta, what you're able to do bike races, mostly downhill, some stunty type races or obstacle courses. And then you're also ski and snowboard tricks. And this was so fun. It tapped in to, it's a little bit obviously like a spiritual successor to Steep. I hear online it's not as realistic as Steep. But the fluidity I felt switching between a bike, a ski, a snowboard was amazing. And if this holds up through all of the equipment in the game, I know there's, wingsuits and all that crazy stuff. I didn't really wade into that. But this game's going to be a blast. It truly is. It's going to be a fun thing to pick up and play like a Tony Hawk. It's going to be a fun thing because you can sort of pick your own path. For me, I just did every event possible when it was come to tricks with snowboarding. I was having so much fun with that. I think I might have even finished every race with bikes. And then the four difficulty levels. There's replayability. There's the customization of your character. Not too deep, not crazy, which I don't mind. I don't want to go crazy creating my guy. But I can see there's going to be cool rewards as you level up. And the setting. The setting was fantastic. So basically what the setting was, obviously fictional in a sense of I don't think all these national parks are close to each other, but there's Yosemite, there's just, the Al Capitan mountain that Alex Honing climbed. There's these real life national parks and landmarks that you are using to just wreak havoc on tricks, downhill speed, and that's something I want to say. You feel like you're going fast when you're going down on a bike down a huge mountain, especially if you switch that first person view. This game truly can be anything to anybody. If you want to play a little more realistically, you can play realistically. If you want to play a little crazy, you can play crazier. I would say this is steep, mixed with a bit of skate, mixed with a dash of Tony Hawk, underground, especially with the characters and the story that they're brewing. I like it, and I've said in previous episodes, I'm looking for more extreme sports games, and this one's going to scratch multiple issues. The bike itch, having a good biking game, although I should play Descenders. I know that's purely like a racing game down a hill. Bikes, snowboards, skis, crazy winged air suits. It seems to have everything. I didn't really play like the multiplayer aspect even, where you could have 6-on-6 trick battles, where you could have a 64-person or 32-person downhill race on multiple equipment. So I didn't even play a lot of the game. I really sort of kept to what interests me most, which was going to be the just races and trick modes by myself. That's sort of what I grew up playing. I didn't need to like get social with it, but if I have friends that pick it up, I think it'll be fun to explore these real life landmarks. That's really, I don't want to say it's educational, but I did learn some things there. There's different rewards you can get to find real landmarks, and it really like sort of pans out and shows you the importance of it. So that was really cool. The humor was all right. It's a little, listen, it has to be pretty broad. This is a global game, and it's, sort of depicts the, people on bikes and snowboards is like, yeah, bro. But that's fine with me if it's funny enough and it gives some life to the game. I'm all for it. Definitely sort of reminds me of the Tony Hawk Thug vibes, to be honest, in terms of maybe a little more grounded in reality. But I'm expecting to see a wonderful cast of characters as you go throughout this game. I'm expecting a lot of replayability, and I actually think that the reception was quite good online, and I think that should give people hope. I saw a lot of conjecture before the beta that this development was troubled, and it very well may have been, but maybe you pull a rabbit out of the hat every once in a while, And like I said, a solid foundation from Steep to build on. You're expanding the sports. I had a great time. So I don't know if I'm going to pick it up at launch. I think it comes out October 26th or 28th. It's towards the end of October. So I don't know what I'm going to do personally with that, but you know what? If I had the option to keep playing it after the beta ended on Sunday night, I would have. Because it's great to pick up and play, and you sort of get sucked in. And what was really cool was some of these stunt runs with a bike. So it wasn't just like, hey, race against these 8 people, and there's plenty of that, which is also a good time. But it was also, taking you're just going against the clock basically, and you just have to finish this course, and it's like pretty tremendous obstacles. Like you had to ride your bike on top of a billboard, on a narrow billboard, narrow tree ledges, consecutive jumps one right after another. And this was difficult. This is something I spent, a good 20-30 minutes on, but when you finished it, you felt so accomplished. Like I said, you can switch between third and first person views. You have different types of bikes, from downhill bikes to road bikes. And you can it's a totally open world. You can just goof around. The map was gigantic in this beta. If it's bigger in the real game, it's going to be very impressive. It was gigantic. You can seamlessly switch between equipment. If you want to go from skis to a bike to snowboarding, you do so in a matter of seconds. You also get a snowmobile to drive around so you can get places faster. There is some quick, fast travel, but not a lot of fast travel doesn't get you totally to the place you wanted to go. So I feel like they're like making a balance. I don't know what the microtransaction situation's like. There are X Games references there. I'm sure there'll be some DLC around that. So I think I'm in. I don't know if it's going to be a day one purchase, but I had a lot of fun with it. And I would say I recommend you play the beta. Unfortunately, you can't. I recommend you checking out some gameplay from the beta that people have posted to YouTube. More impressions. See if it's for you. Definitely arcadey, but not SSX arcadey, if that makes sense. Like arcadey, again, I think Tony Hawk Thug 2 sort of arcadiness. Out of this world, but grounded enough in reality where someone like me who's basically like a sim gamer when it comes to sports games, but easier to not be a sim gamer when it comes to these things like sports I don't know. So I enjoyed the heck out of it. But enough about me. Let's get to this week's news. First story, which was critical for me. This is from Operation Sports, posted by Steve Noah on August 26th. The Madden team has released a server-side update to resolve the desync issues that have plagued online franchise mode head-to-head games. They fixed it, folks. Me and my buddy tried to play a game once. A day after this was released, it dropped. We tried again, it worked, and we didn't have a problem since. This is amazing. The timing was perfect for me, selfishly. We had our game on week 12 of our season, and it lined up that the day this was released was the day before we were going to play. So it couldn't have worked out better for me selfishly, but awesome to see this fixed, within a week of release or so. So far from ideal, but they got it done. The cool thing is they got it done with a server-side update, so no need for a big patch, and really it was all in the background. So if you didn't happen to play... So if I wasn't so online when it comes to sports gaming, and I didn't know that this was an issue, and me and my buddy would have tried and failed once and tried again and it worked, I wouldn't even known it was that pervasive. So that's good. They got that fixed. On that note, though, bigger news, again from Steve Noah, Operation Sports... Madden NFL 22 patch number 2 is available. That came out today the day of my recording, September 2nd, 2021. So there's gameplay tuning, NFL authenticity updates, and more. I'll give you some of these key highlights. There's NFL authenticity updates, added jerseys for teams like the Chiefs, Falcons, Cowboys, Colts, Packers. And what are cool jerseys that stand out to me is the Packers 75th anniversary away. I don't even know what those look like. I kind of want to look at those. The Colts have some throwbacks, even though their jerseys really haven't changed much. And we got the Cowboys 1994 Monday Night Football all-white throwback. I want to give that a look. I have a feeling that has the cool stars on the shoulder, so we'll give that a look. And then a bunch of other small things. An issue with helmets was fixed. Fixed mouthpiece and chin strap alignment. Added some likenesses to coaches, including Frank Reich, Sean McVay, Sean Payton, Cliff Kingsbury, and Mike Vrabel. They updated the likeness of Cam Newton. Well, he ain't on the team anymore, so I don't know. Maybe that was a waste of time for EA. And then they fixed issues in 2 stadiums where sideline characters were clipping through stadium walls, so I'm glad that they're paying attention to that detail, and that something like this is in such an early update. They've updated gameplay as well. They made a note on pass coverage. I think I alluded to it last week. That's sort of a weak spot, although I'm not having as much. And as soon as I'm picking up on better play calling, I feel like I'm not having as much of an issue anymore with pass coverage with the CPU on my end. But they do say, before we get into the gameplay updates, we want to let you know that we are aware of the feedback around pass coverage. We're continuing to monitor and collect the community's feedback they've shared with us. We look forward to sharing the actions we're taking towards pass coverage, which says to me, one is I don't think they really know what the problem is, which might mean that one is not a problem truly, and maybe this is how it was designed and they're sort of biding their time, so others will sort of come to the conclusion I have, which seems playable. I'm not saying there aren't instances where I'm frustrated playing cover 2 where a safety isn't covering somebody, but I'm saying I'm getting enough picks. It seems to offset it. I think games are fairly fair when it comes to my pass coverage, although I do think the computer's pass coverage is a little pick happy, but that could be my poor stick skills and Lamar Jackson's crazy arm. So they added mode-specific tuning of momentum. So basically for online head-to-head modes, momentums will swing slower. I don't know if that's also for franchise mode head-to-head games. I guess I'll see that when I have another head-to-head game there. They addressed an issue causing exploit management to activate inappropriately when the defense had only 3 pass rushers or blitzers versus running plays. They fixed an issue with defensive ends versus nickel AA gap looks. They fixed another issue around RPO zone peak plays where quarterbacks were too easy to scramble. Maybe that's why I'm doing slow growth with Lamar. So we'll have to test out some of those plays. And they actually updated some playbooks. They added a new formation to the Rams playbook and a new formation to the Chargers, Eagles, Lions, and Steelers playbook. I guess one they've seen them play in preseason. Here's also something that's interesting. They updated AI team play calling on offense for more team-specific tendencies and improved super sim stats. Now, I don't know if that just refers to the simming of games or the super simming of games, but I'm hoping it translates to just regular franchise games as well. Although I do generally think that tendency is all right. Although we're living in NFL now where, one, I'm not as familiar with every team as I was when I was 14, but also one that's way more pass heavy. So, it's sort of rare to come across teams that run a lot, which I do want to call out my Baltimore Ravens. We certainly run around my franchise mode, and we're close to, I think we're leading the league in rushing, or at least close, or number 2. And then they fixed an issue so that correct read and pass keys for RPO read option plays are identified more accurately. There, I don't know if they're just talking about the play art when you're calling a play or if the play art on the field. So I'll have to see and check that out. They've updated franchise as well. Like I said, they've improved head-to-head stability. They fixed some quirks with weekly strategy. Fixed an authenticity issue around next-gen stats and completion percentages. They fixed an issue where coordinators were poached in the Super Bowl week, which I'm sure could be very frustrating. They've also claimed to have fixed screenshots for what is this? Where am I? The auto-generated snapshots, weren't being taken after games. So there's a section in your franchise menu where you get snapshots from the games, and I don't have any, and I don't think my buddy who I'm playing franchise with has any either. So that'd be really cool if that ends up working, because there are a lot of cool moments from my game that I would love to see, memorialized in some way without me having to take a gameplay clip. They updated Face of the Franchise mode. Not interested in that mode, so I didn't really read through those, if I'm being honest. The Yard, they added some new plays. They updated the AI the playbook. They fixed some presentation issues around, and that looks like it's play art. They fixed an issue on PlayStation 5 causing controller haptics to remain persistent when the opponent has full momentum. They fixed a rare issue on challenge calls causing the play result announcement from the ref to not match. So little small things. So really great to see that. And then they've also fixed a bunch on the PS4 that I was reading from the PS5, Xbox Series S and X, but they've also fixed a bunch for the last gen of consoles too. So like I said, glad that the patch came out. It's pretty quickly, not perfect, a couple weeks from release, but I'm super happy to see that. Finally, folks, let's talk NBA 2K22 news. I've talked to you now on September 2nd. We are 8 days away from release, and we knew very little up until this week. This week we got some news. Not only did we get we got a gameplay trailer. A gameplay trailer, I'd argue, that didn't show too much. Just sort of really a sizzle reel. Cool, good song and cool highlights, but not really showing you any gameplay that's not highlight driven, but we got a gameplay blog, so I'm going to go over some of this. You can find this on NBA2K.com. They have a courtside report. They've tweeted it out. You can check their Twitter. I know Operation Sports has reposted it. Brian Mazik has reposted on his Twitter, and I think through his Forbes article. So it's many places. Give it a Google if you want to find it. But I'll go over some of the what I think are key. First thing, they lead off with the gameplay blog about defense, and that's huge. So it seems like there's a lot more focus around blocking, which should be good. And then also, and this is a direct quote from the article, for floor defenders, body up rides and bumps feel much more rewarding as the motion team has dramatically improved the feel of on-ball defensive movement. Unwanted bump steals and snatchy body ups have been reduced in favor of giving both the ball handler and on-ball defender more freedom of movement and respected input. Shifts, launches, stops, cuts all feel much tighter, and even with even more new gen foot planning improvements, you'll see a lot less sliding on both ends of the floor. Of course, sliding in basketball games has been forever an issue. I remember people on the Operation Sports Forum calling it out for NBA Live 03. And we've come a long way, but we're far from eliminating sliding just due to the nature of basketball. They also say steals have also received an upgrade with greater emphasis placed on the steal attribute. Low-rated stealers get sluggish animations that punish them when they reach, while high-rated stealers with good timing and opportunity will be able to pick pockets at a much higher rate. Also, be prepared to see more layup dunk strips from high-rated stealers when slashers try to force their way to get to the rim in a crowd. So that is all great news. They don't show any clips around it, no screens around it, so I don't know. I'm sure the thought's in the right place. I'm sure they have the correct intentions, but we'll see how it actually plays out because I'm very curious to see. But that's something long wanted from 2K fans. A semblance of more control on defense. It looks like we might be going that way. I hope we are. It would be great if I feel more control over blocks when somebody's coming carelessly and haphazardly towards the rim, that I have a chance to actually block it and not just get called for a foul. So this is cool. Staying in front of defenders, it seems like it's a little more possible. I always felt like that was tough. You always felt like the offensive player had the upper hand, and I'm hoping that means that a little more basketball IQ plays into it, maybe a little less stick skill, and a little more basketball IQ. So that's a welcome addition. They also have a section on defensive AI. They call it the Czar. Their resident X's and O's expert, and follow the Czar on Twitter if you don't. He's great. He was somebody who used to post on Operation Sports, who now does a lot for the AI team, for coaching situations within the game, for playbooks, for making sure teams run the realistic offenses and defenses. And really, it seems like he tries to reward good basketball IQ in the video game. So that's awesome that somebody like that was employed. And two, that it seems like, if they're calling him out on a blog, they know how important he is and he knows what they're asking. So let me see if there's some. This is what I'm hoping. This paragraph, and I quote: brand new hedge defender logic and behaviors give the catch hedge defender a specific focus for how they react to the ball handler. In the past, the hedge defender's primary focus was their man, which led to the AI actively abandoning the ball handler. This cascaded into several issues. I think pick and roll situations were the most frustrating, and I think they mostly showed themselves to me when I was playing a human opponent, and it would be very frustrating to never trust the defender you're currently controlling, if that makes, or the second defender who's going to come and help, or the guy who's governing the guy who's setting the pick. I'd always switch off to them because I never felt like they could read the pick and roll right. So I'm hoping this hedge logic helps that a bit. It would be great if just these defenders acted more intelligently. And like this game says, that has a cascading effect. If you're not hedging properly, your help defenders are out of place, and there's going to be more open, unrealistic buckets. It also says the AI will no longer send a defender to double a standing offensive player 30 feet from the basket when a user requests drive help in the defensive settings. So that's good. Those small, again, basketball IQ related improvements. This sounds like it's going to make playing the computer more fun, and I hope it makes your AI teammates a little smarter. So I think we get a little more realistic basketball out of head-to-head. So I'm looking forward to that. They finally go over dribbling. I'm not going to go too crazy into this. I've never been great at their dribbling system. They're basically just switching around controls for size ups. They're saying that flicking the stick quicker results in quicker dribbles. I'm going to have to like really play this to know if that's good or bad. I've never been skilled at dribbling. I've never been a dribble god, as they say in the park in that game, and I don't think I ever will. Nor does it really appeal to me. I just want it to be somewhat realistic. I would like... My biggest gripe is, hey, if you dribbled 800 times at the top of the key and you pull up for three, hey, maybe you're fatigued and you shouldn't hit that three. A lot of times when you're playing in the park or you're playing in the rec or pro-am, that doesn't happen. So I'm hoping little improvements like that make it in. They also spent one paragraph, but they do give a paragraph to post play. I hope, go Sixers, trust the process. Joel Embiid, I'm sure he's played a part, his sort of dominance in the post. So they're trying to give you more controls. For example, start a post spin by twirling the pro stick, then immediately move the left stick in the opposite direction for a spin back. There's new right trigger or R2 fakes that keep you engaged in the post while you chain multiple fakes together without disengaging. And there's a better pull the chair mechanic on defense. So that's cool. We'll see how that plays out. Again, like it's a total wait and see approach with how these improvements, they all sound good on paper. They don't sound super plentiful. They sound a little bit here and there. The next section, they talk about shooting. So there's a new shot meter with a dynamically resizing make window. And that will expand when you're taking good quality shots and will shrink when they're heavily contested with a low rated shooter or fatigued. There's still the bonus they did call out on Twitter if you don't use the meter. I usually don't use the meter, at least for my career. So we'll see how this plays. But again, be rewarded for taking smart shots. You should be punished for taking bad shots. So as long as it's moving in that, bending towards that direction, I'm cool with it. I'd like to obviously need to get my hands on it, but that's fun. And hopefully an improvement. We have a section on finishing. They wanted to make more of a skill gap when it came to finishing at the rim. So they've added timing meters to alley-oops and aggressive dunk skill attempts. I heard on Twitter you can't opt out of this in the sense of if you pull the stick back. I think it's when you have right trigger, you pull the stick back. You have to time the dunk. If you don't pull the stick back, you don't have to time it, but obviously that timing plays in your favor because if you time it perfectly, you won't miss. But if you don't time it perfectly, you could miss. So we'll see. Dunking has sort of been, I don't know. I go back and forth when I play the game, whether I like it or don't like it. I generally am okay with it, I think. I don't have too big of a gripes. I do think sometimes it seems like some people are overpowered and can always finish, while I've missed some bunny dunks that should not have been missed. So just hoping that it fixes small little things like that. Builds, badges, and takeover section. Without screenshots, this is sort of very hard to wrap my head around. So let me see if I can find a good sentence. Here's something. They say we've made a lot of adjustments to the system to create more balanced builds and give incentives for creating all different types of players. Smalls will see distinct advantages over bigs and vice versa. So expect to see a lot more variety when you hit the virtual streets of the city this year. I'll believe it when I see it. I don't believe it. Last year, you were able to create pretty much any type of player on Next Gen, and it ended up being like, all right, well, there's basically the type of player you're going to have to be for each position. If you're a center, you're going to have to be like 6'9". You can't be taller. So let's actually see this play out. They say they've increased the amount of badge points at your disposal. They've added some new badges, taken some away. They also have badge loadouts, which I do think's helpful. It would be nice to, based off matchups or based off who you're playing with and what team, maybe based off you're playing 3-on-3 or 5-on-5, you're going to want different loadouts. So that's nice. It can be so quick. They've added, they've added badges. They seem like 2K badges. We won't go into too deep dive on them. But, so gameplay news is out there. the next bit of news from 2K, this is cool for a realism aspect. They've added every NBA team's public address announcer in game. That's huge. Never been done before. You get the generic guy, and sometimes the generic guy will do the Detroit basketball or 2 minutes dose if you're in Miami. But now they have the real team's public address announcers in the game. So this is all good. The one not to be a Debbie Downer, it's awesome to see, especially the Sixers' iconic public address announcer, Matt Cord, I believe his name is. Can't wait to hear him say. But what I'm worried about is what they're saying. Like, if they've only recorded the names for the players on the team this year, if you're playing a home game 3 years in franchise mode and you have a new player on your team, maybe LeBron James comes to the Sixers to end out his career. If he doesn't announce it like he's a part of the Sixers, doesn't announce it at all, we're going to kind of lose some realism. I'm hoping they accounted for it, but I did want to pass along. I think that's really cool news. Finally, when it comes to NBA 2K22 news, my team full preview dropped today, just an hour or so before I started recording this, so I haven't ingested it all. The coolest thing is and you can find this on NBA2K.com. It's the newest courtside report. The My Team draft functionality. It seems a lot like draft champions that exists, I think, in Madden and NHL. So here, directly from the courtside report, in case you missed the first announcements, My Team Draft is a new multiplayer mode where you pick a full lineup of player cards, which will include the latest cards in My Team. So it sounds like you'll be able to get to play with some new cards that aren't in your collection. When starting a new draft, you will be presented with 7 packs to choose your 13 players and coach. You will pick up 2 players from each of the position packs, but where the draft will shine is with that first pack on the left. That is the featured pack. Feature pack will only contain 3 cards that you're added to your draft. You can likely count on these 3 players being the best players in your lineup. So it's sort of your core. So that's cool that there is a mode that you don't need to actually have all these players, I presume, to play. Played a little bit of My Team last year, had a blast with it, but sort of made my own rules, played with friends that way. But on that note, Triple Threat Online, they've added, to quote from the piece, one of My Team's most popular modes. Triple Threat Online will be receiving a new way to play this multiplayer 3-on-3 mode. Enter the 100 at the start of each run in Triple Threat Online. The 100 you will receive you will receive 100 points after every game. You win or lose points. Blah blah blah. But the big thing is, I saw on Twitter highlight is now Triple Threat Online you can play with friends. So that's gonna be dope. Play a little co-op 3-on-3 with good players. That should be fantastic. If you're into My Team, I encourage you to read this article. I'm running out of time here, but it goes over things like brand new event cards, a new unlimited tournament, and then holo cards, which I guess are now the new top card in the game, but they're not necessarily the best cards. They're just the rarest. I didn't fully understand that. And then to get more in the weird world of My Team, there's a grading service for virtual cards, which breaks my brain because they're not real and they're virtual. And if they're not a Gem Mint 10, what the freak is a Gem Mint 10? Anyway, so check out the My Team blog if you want more info. So we got a few more stories here. Thank you for bearing with us here. Full list of stadiums have been revealed for FIFA 22. This article's on Operation Sports from Steve Noah. They just broke out every stadium that's going to be in FIFA 22. Pretty big list. A lot. I think pretty much every stadium for the Premier League. A good, 10 plus from the English Football League. Uber Eats League, only 3 stadiums. Serie A, only 1. Portugal, a couple. The MLS were up to 6 stadiums. And then it looks like Bundesliga has quite a bit. Bundesliga 2 and Santander League. So there's some league. So Spain leagues, quite a lot of stadiums. German leagues, quite a lot of stadiums. English league. So if you're looking to start a franchise there, I would sort of recommend you staying with where there is authenticity. They have plenty of generic stadiums, and they have a very big list of Volta stadiums, which I really enjoyed playing Volta, so I'll probably check those out. The next story comes from Sports Gamers Online, and it seems, I don't know how big this will actually be, but Maximum Football officially sold. So Maximum Football was a game that was always poorly received critically, and I don't know how it kept being made, but they pushed out at least a couple editions as a football sim, quote unquote. And they've been bought by a developer who's helped them work before. They've been bought by Modus Games. And they stated in the tweet they're hard at work on a new entry in the franchise. So we'll see. I mean, this is a game that's come out on Steam, I think, primarily. I don't know if it's been on the consoles, but it has never been received well. Has really looked ugly. But it's cool that more football games are in development, and they haven't been totally canceled. Next bit of news from Operation Sports, from Steve Noah, Madden NFL 22 adds Campus Legends and Superstar KO multiplayer mode. So this is cool. They've added classic USC teams, Texas teams. We're talking Vince Young. We're talking Reggie Bush. But it's only available in Superstar KO mode? Listen, I understand. This is sort of the start of a long build-up towards the return of NCAA football, which I assume will, and based off this, I believe will have a heavy influence on classic teams and players. I could even see them putting a classic player on the return game for that as opposed to a current player, which they could now do with the new rules in NCAA and paying players. But this is sort of disappointing for me to put all these cool players in this game, only make them playable in Superstar KO mode. I don't know. I don't even know if I'll check this out. Just sort of I played Superstar KO mode once. It was one draw. It's just not for me. Not really football in my eyes. But these players now exist in the game. Love to see them come to more modes. More than anything, would love to see an NCAA football. So I did want to mention this. A little disappointing for me. But if you're into that mode, it's probably not disappointing for you. It's probably the best thing that's happened this week. So I wanted to pass that along. One of our last stories here from Operation Sports and Steve Noah. We have the NHL 22 World of Chell video and details. Closed technical test beta began August 30th. So they showed a video of some improvements to World of Chell. I did play some World of Chell in NHL 20. Had a good time. The big thing that they fixed is UI. They're making it much easier to hop in and out of different game modes, making it easier to team up with your friends and not have to hop in and out to get to, if you want to play a club game versus a Pro-Am game versus a drop-in. So it seems like they're really sort of streamlining it. That's the biggest thing I took away from it. I think we'll hear more info down the line. And they also released a schedule of events. So September 28th, we're going to see the first full gameplay. October 4th, we're going to learn about Be a Pro and franchise mode. And then October 6th, we'll learn about Ultimate Team. Okay, finally, our final story of the day, eFootball 2022 launches on September 30th, free on PC and consoles. So this is from Steve Noah and Operation Sports. Konami has announced eFootball 2022 will launch on September 30th for PC and consoles for free. Future content updates and game modes will be a mixed bag of free and premium options. So at launch, we'll have the following features. We'll be able to play a match, take control of teams against other users. You'll have trial matches, playing offline matches against human or AI opponents. With they've listed a few teams. They use Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Juventus, Man U, Arsenal, Corinthians, Flamengo, Sao Paulo, River Plate. And then they said there'll be more authentic teams in an autumn update. And these can also be used for building your creative team. There will also be an update in the winter where users can enjoy Match Authentic with all available teams. You can play PvP. You can play cross-gen matches. So really sort of a limited start, but getting in slightly, FIFA will launch for most people October 1st, although if you pre-order special editions, you'll get it a few days earlier. So they're beating FIFA to the market, but clearly a game that's not fully done yet. Their autumn updates where you'll get the edit mode, where you get haptic feedback, advanced ball trapping, power pass, power shot, and other special kicks. Doesn't seem ready at all for me, in my opinion. So I think they're releasing this out to get some share of the market, to compete with FIFA in some way. I don't know if it's going to be free to start, I don't know if they have to do that. So I'm on a wait and see approach with that game. So we'll wait and see about it. So I want to thank everyone for joining me today to listen to my griping on 2K, to listen to my jubilation when it comes to Madden and Riders Republic, and going through the news. As always, you can find us on Twitter at AdultSportsKid. Feel free to tweet at me any stories you'd like or any comments on this episode. You can find this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. And also, you can find me on Twitch at jpaul1723. As always, have a good one, everyone.